so excited.
It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Cassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
We got a full-blown ice cube over there yelling that we're on.
The guy's deaf, though.
Who's Zach?
Hernan's deaf.
Hernan. Well, I'm pretty deaf, too.
You're pretty deaf.
I'm very deaf. Yeah. Or I just like having my headphones just like cranked. I just don't want to hear any outside noise.
Oh, really?
Like, I just want to hear you. I like, even with him yelling, I still barely heard him. That's how loud my headphones are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I remember at the old place, I could hear me talk in your headphones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. God. All right. It is Two Guys A Goalie. We are brought to you by GS Construction. They are hiring today. Dusty and Gage are in studio. Cass on the just outside of the sun on a ship, sailing in towards the sun right now. Cass, how is it in outer space?
It's warmer than it is outside, right? So
that's definitely
a good
true.
thing. I sent a message to Hernan. I think I figured out my solution to my sun problem is I got to get a little barrier thing I can put up, because it's like the sun just, right at this time, it's like behind a building, and then it's like 12, and right when we hit podcast time, it's like it just pops out and then just burns my eyes.
You're like a Clue in a National Treasure movie with Nick Cage. The sun will shine directly on his face at 12:04 on
directly
Tuesday.
on his face. That's how you know. That's how you know on Tuesdays and Thursdays that it's time for Two Guys and a Goalie. Yeah, that's how you know.
That does make sense. And Gager, so it's cold outside.
Oh.
Usually it's pretty warm in here, and it's kind of warm here. But you've been wearing this scarf all day. Is your neck not super sweaty right now?
It's cozy though.
Is it?
It's really cozy. It's like a little sleeping bag.
Well, I was going to say, because it doesn't. When I saw you, I was like, "What is this?"
Yeah, no.
Because it's not like a
I've
typical.
got another theory, Dusty.
Yeah.
Dusty, I've got another theory.
Okay.
I think Gager's in the process of getting a really big neck tattoo, and it's just not done yet. So he's waiting on the reveal.
I was going to suggest
an EST one.
I was going to suggest
it's just EST along his throat.
That would be nice. I'd like that. I think maybe he has a hickey.
Yeah,
and he doesn't want to show us.
Couldn't keep the old lady off me last night.
Yeah, that must have been it.
Looks like I fell on a Dyson.
Looks like
they show that thing proudly. Actually, brings me to a semi-funny conversation. Have you guys ever done, like, if you've ever gone for like physio or treatment or anything, have you guys ever done cupping? Have you ever had that done?
No, they were doing it a bunch at our last World's Longest Hockey game, and a bunch of boys were getting it, but this won't surprise you. I was too scared, so I never got it done.
Yeah. Anyways, my wife got it done, and I mean, she was like a leopard with the amount of like massive hickeys.
My wife
I tried to take credit for them. And I tried to take credit for them when we were out and about, because it's like you could see she's getting like on her shoulders, and so she'd like wear a shirt, and it's like you could see it popping out of there. And just a random stranger, I'd be like, "You see that? You see that?" And it just to drive her nuts.
Yeah, you suck your wife's back.
But yeah,
essentially is what you're trying to say.
Maybe it's you're into that kind of role playing a little bit, Cass. Do you put on like safari gear and she's the cheetah and you're hunting through the Serengeti?
It's just the cheetah, the leopard. Yeah. You know what? Hey, it's we're married. As I tell people, we have a license to do that, and if we're both comfortable and happy, and no one is uncomfortable or unhappy or embarrassed or shamed, we're good. So, you know what? What happens in the Cassian household in the bedroom stays in the Cassian household.
I picture Cass as, remember the first Jumanji? With
the big guy? The guy who like lived there from Jumanji?
Yeah, that gets the whole safari, like the one part of the hat is pulled up and all in earth tones with a big, huge
Do you
rifle.
want to play Leopard versus Jumanji guy tonight?
Let's play Jumanji. And then just Cass starts beating that drum.
That's a good beat, actually.
Yeah, it's a great beat.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the kids are banging on the door. What's going on? I'm on a safari.
That's too good.
Can we play too? No.
No. Play Safari by yourself downstairs. Like, geez.
Yeah, go away. Yeah.
Always so many questions. Why is the door locked on this Safari? Just to keep everybody safe. All right, it is Two Guys and a Goalie. But anyway, tell people who are listening on TuneIn or iHeart or EdmontonSportsTalk.com, your scarf has like a sleeping bag feel to it. It's not like your typical sort of knitted scarf.
No, it's that sleeping bag kind of stuff. So that's
it's a poofy scarf.
But
a very small person could sleep under that thing.
Exactly, but it does have a little. It's comfy on the inside. Like you put the felty side on the inside of it, so it's really quite nice. I obviously today walking the dog needed it. Terrible getting that chill on the neck walking the dog, and this thing's just perfect.
I want to try it sometime. I became a big scarf guy when I went to Switzerland, because the very first time I went over, I can't remember who it was. I don't know if it was somebody who'd done the broadcast before. It was funny. It was the first producer I had there. He was really into like dressing very well in Switzerland. He's like, bring a series of scarves.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? He goes, well, you have to keep your neck warm. And I was like, you know what? That does make sense. If I'm going to be walking down to the rink and back up and be in the rink. Now, I wasn't wearing a scarf in the rink, but that's when I became scarf guy. And then when I came home from Switzerland for about a month, I tried to keep Scarf Dusty going. Yeah. And I've got a stack of about 8, 9 nice scarves, but I haven't worn one in a long time. But today would have been the day.
Yes.
Yeah. We should have done a scarf show.
I had the EST scarf on, but I was like, do I wear that? Because I did put it on with the trench coat the other day just to see how it looked. It looks
nice.
sharp.
Yeah.
Looks really
trench
sharp.
coat and scarf.
I had a bunch, and I'll do a shout out for Modern Measure here, sponsor of the oil stream, and Hello Hockey. I had to buy. I picked up a nice overcoat, and I don't fit things well just because I'm large and not.
It's tough.
Well,
it's tough, buddy.
Whatever. It's tough. It's tough to find stuff off the rack, and so I got a really nice overcoat from there, which is beautiful. I wear that thing like every day, but it looks sharp with a scarf. Like it really does, and you can get a little bit of a pattern in there, get some color. It's beautiful. So I used to have a whole bunch, and I think I still have them. But they are all like dragon wings or bird wings or butterfly wings, or they basically quite literally every single scarf I have has been absconded by the children and is used for various things. So I'll just see them sometimes. Like you'll be going down to the office, which is in the basement, and I'll just, see a scarf on the stairs and like, oh, there's that one. And if I were to go put it away, they know where like Dad's winter stuff is, and they will just go take it again. And someone again is a bird, dragonfly, butterfly, dragon, some mystical fairy creature. So I don't have any scarves anymore because my kids stole them.
If Tommy's doing like sideline reporting, he could go like isotoners with the trench coat and the scarf, couldn't he?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think I wore a scarf one time on the sidelines.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did sidelines a couple of times. I think I wore a scarf one time. You know what? I think tomorrow.
I feel like later in the season, it's perfect, right?
Yeah.
Like when it starts to cool down and you're out there. I think that's it's a good choice. Yeah, and you can do it in a little knot. Like you don't just have to have it. Like you can fold them nice and
might be
they
able
look
to sneak
sharp.
in those EST colors.
Well, yeah, you know what? I might. I have some really nice winter jackets. I might wear a nice winter jacket and a scarf tomorrow. I might.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
I like it.
I think I might. Like that. It would be worth it. Yeah, I wear the same EST stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I got to figure out what shirt I'm going to wear with it, but I'll put on some nice jeans. And I do have a meeting tomorrow. I think it'll be a Zoom. So maybe I'll wear that and I'll have my scarf and they'll think I'm very professional.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's good as well. Hey, speaking of offices, you said your office is in the basement. Gager, where's your office? I see, sometimes the dog and kids will walk by your office. Where's that at home? Whereabouts?
Main floor.
Main floor.
Yeah.
Main floor, like just off the living room type of office? Yeah. When we first moved into our house, I was like, oh, this could be the office right on the main floor. And then it's become a playroom. It's been the kids' playroom for like 10 years.
Well, that's what it was for a long time. That was my daughter, that was the Tim Hortons. Like one of her first words was, obviously my wife did this, she would go, coffee, and she go double. I had to go buy doubles all the time in there, and it seemed like every time I went in there, toys everywhere. I would come out, and then somehow someone would go in there and dump them all again. So it's kind of nice to.
Our toy room is insane.
Oh yeah.
Like if they wanted to, they could probably play in there for 4 straight days.
Oh yeah.
And not try not hit a different toy, not hit a toy twice.
And
it's crazy. You know?
I found myself even going in there sometimes playing with the Lego, and I never had a toy room like that. Like
no, me neither. I had some toys in my room, but I didn't have a toy room.
It was ridiculous in there.
So last night at dinner, we're having this conversation about. Marshall was like, I'm going to move out one day. I said, well, it'll be a while. I said, but he goes, well, I mean, when I work with you, maybe I live in my own place. I said, why don't you just keep living with me and you can move down to the basement and I'll charge you a little bit of rent and we'll just save the rent and give it to you when you move out, like type of thing. And he goes, okay. So then after dinner, we go downstairs. I'm like, hey, I'm going to go down, get a little bit of work done before like bath time and stuff. So I go down and he's like, I want to come down and take some shots. So he comes down and he's playing hockey. He goes, Daddy, so when I start renting this place from you. He goes into the office. He goes, I think I'm going to leave this here because I'll need an office because I'll be working with you. He goes, he walks into the resting room we have. There's like a big bedroom down there with like 2 queen beds. And he's like, He goes, I think I'll leave up these movie posters and all these hockey cards will be mine. I said, no. I said, you don't get all my stuff. I'm not dying. Like, you just rent. So then we go back out and he's like, okay, well, and the couches are there. And he goes, I think we have a basketball shooting thing. He's like, I think I'll keep the basketball shooter. And then over here, this is where I'll lay around and play video games. I said, so like you're just leaving the basement exactly the same. He's just like, I guess I am leaving the same. I said, I know, son, because it's an awesome basement. I want to rent it and just live down there. Like, so yeah, he's all excited for that. But my office is down there right now. So, but I guess as they get older, the office moves up.
Yeah,
and he'll take over the basement.
You won't even go down there after a while. I don't think
that makes me sad. I love the basement. That's
the basement's great.
It's my place to get away from everything.
It's your fortress of solitude.
Yeah. But, anyway, he's laying it out. It's a pretty good basement, even for like a kid when they're like 20.
As I told you, my boy moved out. My daughter had designed plans to knock out the wall between their rooms and make her one big room like 2 days after. I'm like, hey, let's
like Kevin Spacey in Horrible Bosses. Remember?
I was like, hey, let's just pump the brakes on the home renos.
I got a handshake deal with Elizabeth last night that she's not going to move out until she's somewhere between 26 and 30, or she has a fiance. Wow. And I was like, you know what? So we shook on it at dinner last night. I said, this is good.
Okay.
I like this. This is a fair deal. So, yeah, I like my kids, man. I want them to stay at home forever. So we'll see. I mean, I'd be bored if that's not the case. But yeah, you're right. It might change when she's 18. We'll see about that. All right, Oilers and Blues tonight. This conversation came up, and Gager, I kind of asked you about it, but we'll continue it here on Two Guys and Goalie today. It came up on our show this morning. Because, Cass, you'll see it on the post game, obviously, a bunch, where the Oilers lose, and they're never going to win this goaltending. They got to go get a fourth defenseman, which I don't necessarily disagree with. We'll see how Klingberg continues to kind of catch up to speed here. Their forward group outside of McDavid and Draisaitl, there's nobody really lighting it on, exceeding expectations offensively. Yet they're first in the division. So we were asking this morning, Cass, like, what is it that has them in first place? If there's a bunch of guys who aren't hitting what we thought would be their targets offensively, obviously I think people are probably little over the top on goaltending. But is it coaching?
A little.
Is it just Draisaitl? Is it,
my goodness.
Like, what do you think?
So we got last post game. We had two big things after the game against the Leaf. One was you have to trade the goaltender. You have to get a new goaltender. And the second that started popping up, like if we were going to do the summary of the nasty chat in particular, the second big thing was Knobloch doesn't have what it takes. He's too soft and quiet and soft spoken, and we need to fire the coach. And I'm just like, are you out of your mind? Like this goaltending took you within one goal of the Stanley Cup last year, and you're losing your mind. And coaching took you one goal away, and you're in, whatever it is, tied for third overall in the league. Why are you freaking out? Now to look at the rest of the lineup to say, hey, it'd be nice to squeeze some more out of this offensively. Sure. If you think, because I think, depending on how Klingberg works out, if he works out, that depth position is addressed a little bit and it doesn't make it as much of an issue as it has been this year, then the next thing out is saying, okay, we want someone in the bottom six that can play that hustle and grind game, not even necessarily score goals, but just hard to play against, really scrappy and chippy, and can play that physical game, maybe brings a little bit of size that you have up and down your lineup. That to me, I'm like, okay, that's it. That improving your depth, sure, that can be an absolute priority heading to the deadline. But the goaltending conversation for me is just like trading for Gibson. No, you're not upgrading. You're not going to upgrade your goalies. There's going to be no one available to upgrade your goalies, and it's going to be too expensive even if you wanted to. Your goaltending is what it is. They got you within a goal of the Stanley Cup. Quit freaking out about it. Number one. Number two, like, why are we panicking when they're third place in the league because they lost a couple games in a row? Like, why are we freaking out here? And what has worked? Well, their power play has been steady. Their penalty killing has been really good, and their big guys are doing what the best players in the world should do, which is put up points. Like, are we expecting them to score 6 goals a game in terms of the production with the rest of the lineup? It's like, no, they don't have to. And it's, the production from the bottom 6 in particular isn't a problem until the top offense dries up, which generally doesn't. And if it does, it's not going to be for a long period of time. So I get like where you want to tweak things. You want to add some of that defensive depth for sure, because that's, if we're looking at areas, they can be leaky defensively at times. So yes, like let's work towards, or hope Klingberg solves that problem. If he doesn't, let's make a trade. Let's bring someone in at before the deadline. Let's do it. But it's just the level of freak out after that Toronto game to me was just completely asinine and unprecedented, particularly towards the goaltending. Like, even to go to that, even in that Toronto game, and I don't know how you guys feel about it. And Dusty, I know you were in the nasty chat ripping them. It's like, I wouldn't say Skinner played good because I don't think he played great, but like,
I don't think I was
those
ripping
goals
him.
Were on second. No, not ripping him. That might be too.
I pointed out that I did think he was their least valuable player in that hockey game.
Really?
Yeah,
really?
I did.
You don't think the power play? Well, like, if we were going to pin it on something, because it's like 3 of those goals were on second opportunities. 3 of them.
Yeah, but I mean, you could also not give up the second opportunity, right? Like the second goal, Gager did not think he could have controlled that rebound.
Yeah. It's the
third one. There was a lot of traffic. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really gonna.
It was magnified because of the play of Wall too, right?
That always happens too. You're right.
So now you're like, well, they're getting good goaltending. Why can't we get? Well,
I was frustrated by the people who were like, oh, outplayed by the other guy again. I'm like, did you watch the other guy?
Yeah.
Like, I thought he was great at the other end. Like, what are you supposed to do? Stand on your head every single game? That's unreasonable expectations as well. So, I mean, like I said,
expectation.
I defend Skinner a hell of a lot more than I would critique him, but I didn't think he was good in that game.
No.
So
he'd probably say the same thing.
He wasn't great. Yeah, he would say the same thing. I would say the same thing. Was he great? No, he wasn't great. That being said, he still did make some good saves, particularly in the third period, that gave them a chance to almost come back, and they just ran out of time. Like, so, yeah, I mean, like to freak out about where this team is at right now for people, it's like, why freak out? They're in third overall in the league after a horrendous start to the year. After a horrendous start to they have probably, we'd have to look, like, after that first batch of games, like really since November, they probably have been one of, if not the best team in the league. So, like, where's the fire here? Like, there's things you want to shore up and clean up heading into playoffs. Absolutely. Again, I think adding a little bit more grit, as it were, in the bottom 6 to play playoff hockey for sure, and depth there. To potentially add another defenseman that can play in your top 4, sure. Let's add there. But to freak out is completely unprecedented and unwarranted. Not unprecedented. It's unwarranted.
Chris Knobloch was asked today about his team. In their last 30 games, they're 22-7-1. Okay, so they've got points in 23 of 30. But he was asked, what has it been? And just the quote here, it says, I think through that stretch, the goaltending's been really strong. Gager, you talked about how much you like this pair. Another one is the special teams. During that stretch, we've won the power play matchups more nights than not. So, surprise, when a team plays well, Cass, it's goaltending and special teams. That's usually the recipe for success, is it not?
Yeah, and the other thing I thought about, even when you asked me the same question this morning, Dusty, was the play of the defensive core of the Oilers too. Obviously, Ekholm's out last game, but Darnell Nurse is playing way better than he did last year, right? Amberson's coming on. Kulak is my favorite player, and I think one of the best players on the Oilers. Klingberg's going to take some time. It's already like he's played 2 games, and they're like, "Oh, has this been enough? Is he going to be the answer?" You got to let this thing marinate. Like I got those olives and whiskey out there too. Got to let it sit.
Yeah, you've had those olives. Hey, more on the olives during hire it or fire it. Okay, we'll come back around to those.
But I mean, the play of their defense, the defense has been really good this year. And is there room for improvement? Yes, but I'm always to the. I like teams that have some adversity. Like I don't know why you want all this regular season success. Who cares about this? The ultimate goal is after the regular season. That's when it really matters. And to a point, I think the Oilers have a lot of guys that are able to adjust their game or raise their game to a level once the playoffs come around where you'll see probably a different gear. This is a team that realized what it takes to go through the slog of the regular season. And like we said, they're still third best team in the league where, I think they're in third gear still. They've gone into fourth, maybe fifth.
There's definitely another gear.
There's
definitely one more gear for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, you know what? You're probably right. Like there'll be a first and second round gear, and then if they're going to win it, there's got to be a third round, like another gear to get
another
you to the
gear
next
from
rounds.
a lot of these guys, right? So sorry to make those car analogies. We're just 22 days away from testing in Bahrain.
Justin of Valgoni. Stuart Skinner in the last 2 months has a .913 save percentage and a 2.46 GAA. That's good goaltending.
Yes.
Yes. Chief Andy is in and says 2 fanboys and a goalie. I don't think that. Look, man, just look at the standings. And I pointed that out today. Their overall team shooting percentage is worse than their save percentage in the overall rankings among NHL teams. Right? So
Chief Andy, we got receipts here.
Some of those other guys, like further down, like Henrique and like those guys going to start burying at some point. I would hope.
I
think
they are.
Yeah, I think you think that's going to come. You think that's going to happen. All right, Oilers and Blues tonight. Before we get to the lines, I'll throw this to both your ways. It's 2 Guys A Goalie brought to you by GS Construction. If you're looking for a job, the Sandman and his crew at GS are hired. I did text him after Thursday. I was at power skating. I clipped the clip of us calling the most international man. And he goes, I'll get back and set you guys straight. And I said, I'd love some stories. I said, I'm probably sure you can't tell us all of them. He goes, I've got enough PG stories I can share. So that's it. We'll get Sam within here at some point. Cass, do you think Oilers management deep down inside somewhere is like, oh man, we should have just matched on Holloway?
Yep.
Yeah, like
probably
2.2 mil.
I mean, probably.
He's on pace for 60 points. Not saying he would have had it here, but he's second on their team in scoring. His contract right now kind of looks a little bargainish, to be honest with you, for the St. Louis Blues.
He's a guy that just I think when he got there, I mean, he started out quite well too, but now with the coaching change, he's been given a lot more responsibility. He's blossomed into a regular NHLer.
I didn't think it would happen in his first year there. I thought
I
might
didn't
take
either.
a little time, but
I didn't think so either. I never saw him as he's scoring a lot there, but he's getting the opportunity to score. Is he on the first power play here? No. Right? Is he?
I think he could play with Leon Draisaitl though.
Yeah.
Like nothing against Podkolzin. But Holloway was pretty hard on pucks too.
I think he's an upgrade on Podkolzin.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. So I think so.
I think he fits into that one easily. And I mean, if you have Podkolzin where probably he should be right now, that's at $1 million. That's great. Yeah. Hindsight's always 20/20 with this. They should have done something, but
yeah,
you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, it's easy. Yeah. It's easy to look at it now to say.
Yeah, I asked Holloway because it was an easier number to swallow than Broberg. Like 4 point. You're not. Yeah. The Holloway one you could have just sucked up. Like you could have made that work no matter what.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, again, hindsight's super easy. You'd look at like a Jeff Skinner at $3 million and say, much rather have Holloway at 2.2 for a guy that can play on that third line and still find ways to produce. that could play now, as he's showing, can play in the top 6 and be successful in the top 6. Yeah, but it's easy. It's just like anything, right? Like we could all look back and make those decisions with hindsight's way easier, because I think for a lot of us, the 2.2 felt like it was a little too high. Now I still go back to that, and even at the time, I think you probably should have matched one of the offers, not both. I don't think you could afford both. I think, then the second you moved out Ceci for Emberson, you had a little bit of space. I thought you should have matched one of them, especially knowing that Evander Kane was going to be out for at least a little while. The Holloway one, as you said, Dusty, was more.
Somebody pointed out today
at its level.
If you would have matched on Holloway, you don't trade for Podkolzin and you keep Josh Brown in the minors, and there's your $2 million.
Yeah,
it would have been a much easier one to swallow. Which when they traded Ceci, I think we all sort of thought, they'll match on Broberg, but they could have easily kept Holloway.
Yeah,
and they opted to take the compensation as well. So, it's a backfire. I mean, Dylan Holloway would be a nice piece here with this group right now, but we knew that, and we'll see how he plays tonight. Who was it? Somebody over there. Yeah. Duck Dad says Holloway anytime goal scorer tonight plus 315. You know how it works. So you got that. Here's what the line combinations are for the Edmonton Oilers this evening. McDavid with Perry and Draisaitl, Nuge between Hyman and Arvidsson, Henrique, Kasperi Kapanen, and Skinner, and then Matthias Janmark, Connor Brown, and Vasily Podkolzin. So Podkolzin, who's been kind of locked in that top 6 for quite some time, he's sliding down to the 4th line here. Gager, do you get anything out of Henrique, Skinner, and Kapanen tonight?
Maybe, because he got a little revenge from Kapanen going up against the old team that waived him, right? He's going to have a little bit more juice, and maybe he adds something to that line. So yeah, I like the Kapanen revenge angle of tonight. Although I think Holloway will score, I think
everybody scores.
Everyone scores. Yeah.
Broberg too. Everybody gets your. Everybody
you
gets
get
your
a point.
Tonight.
You get a point. It's an Oprah game.
Same type of thing. A full blown Oprah game tonight. Cass, what do you think of this lineup? Nuge, we should ask Nuge, Hyman, Arvidsson. What do we think of that? Yeah. That group there too. It's an interesting second line.
Yeah, it is an interesting second line because you kind of have not complete repetition between Arvidsson and Hyman, but you have a little bit there where it's like two guys that should be around the net that try to dig pucks out of the corners and be around it a little bit. And I think maybe that's what you're going for, is to, with that line, to maybe take some of the pressure that Arvidsson feels to accomplish some of that, and saying, hey, there's two guys that are going to be able to do this here, or maybe just from a identity of the line to hope that it is a line that's like, no, they're going to be around the net all the time and just cause some chaos for other teams. And then you balance it with a Nuge who's a smart player, can play up top, be in that F3 position in the offensive zone, and to try to generate some offense that way. So it's an interesting look, that's for sure. I probably am most interested to see that line, to see how Arvidsson and Hyman in particular play together, and to see what comes out of that. And the Skinner, Kapanen, Henrique, you're just hoping that somehow Skinner can continue to find that offense.
He'll score 2 goals tonight.
You think so?
Yeah.
You get a goal.
Wow, look at you, hey?
Yeah.
Gator's predicting a 9-8 hockey game tonight.
9-8 hockey game, yeah.
That's a good one. Mike, outside of Edmonton, says, guys, the best decisions are always made in retrospect. But I do think at the time, a lot of us were saying, well, you could match on, let a young guy get away for.
And look, Podkolzin's worked out.
Oh, yeah, he's been good.
Great.
Yeah, for kind of picked off the
Yep.
scrap heap in Vancouver.
Yeah.
You got to be pretty happy with what you're getting from him for $1 million. So, yeah. You've got that going for you. All right, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. Collingwood Rob does say, one thing Podkolzin has that Dylan Holloway doesn't is the ability to drop the gloves and deliver a message with a fight in the playoffs that could be beneficial. So, it seems like he's a willing combatant
physicality,
pretty much everything.
Which is fair.
Yeah, there's some more physicality there for sure. All right, so over in the chat, we're going to get to, let's go around the NHL right now on Two Guys and a Goalie, brought to you by GS Construction. We'll have Hire It or Fire It coming up here as well. Ryan Hartman gets the 10-gamer. Gage, your thoughts on the play, and do you think he'll appeal the 10-game suspension? Pretty heavy bomb.
I thought that was perfect. I think I said it should be 10 games. That's a brutal attempt to injure a player, and not only a player, like a star of the other team. You can see him. He puts his forearm on the head of the player while he's like bending down, and leaves his feet.
It's a real dick move.
Oh my! Like you could have, if he slips a little bit more and his arm slips, he could break his neck. Like he's a dirty player. He looks for opportunities when guys are in vulnerable positions. Nanso and I were saying yesterday, remember the time they were just coming back and Bouchard, I mean, he's not too aware usually when he comes back into his own zone anyway, but Hartman hits him into the net because he knows that Bouchard's not expecting it. You gotta be aware of the kick on Leon, very dangerous.
Predatory.
He looks for opportunities to hurt or injure other players. You don't need guys like that. If anything close to this happens again, I think you're looking at 25 games because he's gonna seriously injure someone eventually. And if he doesn't learn his lesson after this, I'm fine with taking away half the season from him.
What do you think, Cass?
Yeah, thought it was apt. Like it was pretty bad. Stuff like that used to happen way more. I actually remember trying to do something similar to Kyle Beach when he was at Everett. And I was with Kamloops. I was trying to fight him off the draw because he drove everyone nuts. So he's just whatever.
You're like, let's just go.
Frustrated player to play against.
You Jake the Snake.
Let's go.
Somebody?
We're going. And he said, no. And so I just jumped him because I told him I'm going to jump you. I'm like, you don't have a choice in this. It was at center ice. I'm like, we're fighting. He's like, no. I'm like, you don't have a choice. Like we're fighting whether you want to or not. And so I grabbed him and he tried to turtle. And so I wasn't really able to do it because he had his arms tucked in underneath, but I was trying to pick him up and like smash him into the ice. It was a different time. But I'm fine. Like with a player falling like that and falling intentionally and onto his head. And that wasn't that, like I wasn't trying to fall on him. I was trying to basically pick him up and smash him into the ice. So it was better, guys, I promise. But he is a guy that has a history, as you said, and I'm fine with the 10-game suspension on that. Totally fine. Now, does he appeal? Yeah, he's probably going to appeal. I mean, that's a 10-game suspension. Yeah, he's definitely going to appeal. But for those that aren't aware, when you appeal to the same people that just gave you the suspension. So, like, well, I'm going to appeal to Gary Bettman, who just approved the suspension that got handed out to me. It's not really much of an appeal. Like what else are you going to argue in that situation to try to lessen it? Like, you can't argue anything.
He didn't fall.
They've already done, like, and it wasn't like his foot got hit and they, like you said, they didn't both fall. Like it wasn't like he was falling and he put his arm out to try to protect himself. It's like, no, he was trying to push him into the ice. So it's like, there's no, will they appeal? Probably. Of course you're going to appeal to it, but it's not going to change the suspension. Like Bettman already approved it. You're appealing to the guy that gives you the suspension. So what is it? No, I'm just asking pretty please this time. I'm going to, instead of just saying, please don't suspend me, I'm going to say, pretty please suspend me for less. The appeals process in the NHL for suspensions is a joke. It's a sham. Like it doesn't, I don't think, have we ever seen when someone has appealed a suspension, a lessened suspension? Like the only situation I could see that actually working.
I think it has happened.
It was time served and that, or whatever.
Time served.
But the only thing would be like, you could appeal, like if there's a situation where, let's say, you go to what's his face from Ottawa. They got Pinto. I think it was Pinto. Like where you get like you had a buddy that was betting on a game or something like
an
that.
off-ice
like where it's like
everything,
an off-ice situation where it was like, well, they automatically suspended you 50 games and you appealed to be like, well, you know what, this and this and this and this, and then they reduce it. Like I could see that. But for ones where it's just like, no, you did something dumb on the ice. You've done something dumb in the past on the ice. The appeals process means nothing.
I think they should appeal it, and then actually, if they look at it even further and see how vicious it actually is, you know what? It's 15 now.
Well, yeah, that's what Scott says in the nasty chat. He's like, yeah, you're right. Good appeal. Here's 15. Like, yeah, that's great. Yeah. I think that's a good one. Let's continue around the National Hockey League. The Ottawa Senators. Another win last night. They've won 5 in a row. They're 2 points back of the Toronto Maple Leafs for second in the Atlantic. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. They've got a better goal differential than the Maple Leafs. Cass, this is quite a run for your former club to not only put themselves like in a wild card mix, but I mean, they stay hot here and maybe win a couple head-to-heads with Toronto. They could have home ice in the first round against the Leafs team,
which is crazy. And it's kind of, I feel like we've been waiting for 2 or 3 years for this from the Sens.
It's been 3 years,
right? Where it's been 3 years where every year we're like, this is the year they push for a wild card spot. This is the year they push for a wild card spot because they have some really good pieces. So you have some fantastic pieces. Like you have Stützle and you have Tkachuk up front. So you have two really good forwards. You've started to add in some depth pieces that are beneficial. You have a goaltender now, so you have a good goaltender and getting good goaltending. And then you have Chabot and Sanderson is defensemen, where there's Chabot's a stud and Sanderson is pretty close to what I would call a stud defenseman too. So it's like you have all the core pieces there to be a good hockey team and a competitive hockey team. And it has finally manifested itself probably a year or two later than it should have in all reality. And, I've got to watch them live a couple of times this year, and it's like, no, and they play a hard game. Like they play a fast up tempo, try to beat you everywhere on the ice, like a well-rounded game, I would say. It's they're a good team. They're a good team, and I would be surprised. I'm not surprised that Montreal is completely fallen out, but I would be very surprised with how they're playing if they fall out of a playoff spot, whether that be in division or wild card. But yeah, the pieces are finally clicking. Like it's finally manifesting itself. The players they have are finally playing up to or close to the potential that they should have been at the last 2 years, which is fun to see. I mean, I love seeing that. Now they just need that Rick, because that would just make it all better.
The troll over on the inbox at 780-218-9999. Of course, if you're listening to Two Guys A Goalie on TuneIn or iHeart or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com, you can text us. If you're on YouTube watching, you can text us as well. He says, God, I hope we live in the timeline where the Sens beat the Leafs in the first round this year. I love him saying, like, I hope that's our timeline. Like, it's happening in some timeline somewhere, but that would be good. And Pender's Pancake says, just imagine the Sens taking out the Leafs in the first round. I'm drooling. Can you imagine that?
I mean,
that would be so amazing.
The entire country would be backing the Senators in that matchup. Like,
absolutely.
God, that would be good. All right, and then this one just came out, I think, during the show. And hey, if anything ever breaks during Two Guys or when EST Afternoons is on the air or the Reed Wilkins show, just share it over in the chat. We'll try to track it down. If you have a link to details, that would be great as well. But I think it was Elliot Friedman. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I apologize if it was somebody else. But the Vancouver Canucks apparently are willing to move Carson Soucy on the back end. $3.2 million to cap it. 6'5" veteran guy. He's a lefty. Not that perfect. I don't know how much he plays on the right side. I can't speculate on that right now. If somebody knows, please pass that along. But Cass, is this a path that you think the Oilers should at least pop their heads in? See what's up?
No, because he's a lefty. If he was a righty, I'd be all over it. If he was a righty, I'd be all over it. But he's a lefty, and so I'm just apprehensive because I want to keep my powder dry for a guy that's right-handed, and I want to keep my powder dry to see how Klingberg works out because you have a couple games to look at him still. So there's a part of me that's like, he's got kind of what you want, like defensive defenseman, big, strong, can play nasty at times, hasn't had the season that he'd like, clearly, that the Vancouver Canucks would like, but he's a lefty. And you need that right side is still that area of exposure for the Oilers. Like, where's he going to fit in on that left side? He's not. So, because you got Kulak, you have Nurse, you have Ekholm, and I guess if he was a seventh guy in another lineup to play on that left side, if someone gets hurt, okay. But at that contract number, that's probably a little more than you want to spend on a guy that's going to be in the press box every couple of nights. So I think you got to pass on it. I think you got to pass on it. If he was right-handed, you got time for it all day.
Okay, so I'm trying to look up as much stuff as I can on Carson Soucy as we discuss. Paulie Deuce says, didn't Soucy cross-check McDavid in the face in last year's? Yeah, but remember McDavid had been cross-checked from behind a little bit.
It was Zadorov that hit him
in
first,
the back.
In the back.
And Soucy got him in the face. Penner's Pancake says, I'm pretty sure Stoff is already on the phone to Vancouver. And RCN says he can and has played right side in the past. I was just reading an article from a Vancouver website, and they have said that he has played the right side in the past to leave Zadorov and Ian Cole over on the left. Gager as a goalie, where do you come out on a veteran guy who, as Cass mentioned, he's a lefty. Playing the right side for this team if they decide to go down that path.
The numbers, it's a little bit high, like Cass said, and in a perfect world, you want a right shot. I think you although he's played the right side before, I think you hold off. And there's got to be someone else.
It's an interesting but not ideal situation, right?
Right. The only left shot guy that I would consider for the right in the league, if he were available, would be Provorov.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Provorov when you started talking about
that. Yeah, that would be the only one, because it's not spot duty. Like, he regularly plays the right side. That would be one for me. But with where Columbus is right now, like, if they would have fallen out of the race and well out of it at this point, maybe he'd be available. Right now, he's not. There's no chance. Columbus is not. I mean, they could be buyers. By the way, did you see that injury for the Columbus, the puck to the face, broken jaw?
Ooh, I did not.
Oh, you gotta pull that up.
Who was it?
Talk about that one. Geez, this is absolutely horrible. Because he's their leading scorer. Is killing Marchenko.
Oh, it's Marchenko.
Oh.
Yeah, broken jaw. Sitting on the bench, takes a puck to the face. It was
on the
brutal.
bench.
On the bench.
I did not see this.
Yeah, which really hurts. If we're talking around the NHL, really hurts the Columbus Blue Jackets. But even with that injury, I kind of go, there might be more buyers at the deadline than sellers, because they're in the hunt, and they, with a tiny cap, and I don't think they have any players that make over $5 million on the roster. They're in the hunt here, so they could be buyers. So Provorov's out of the discussion. So you need a right shot guy.
All right, let's get into hire it or fire it for GS Construction. And do you say GS is hiring now? But let's be honest, GS Construction is hiring all the time. Very busy, lots of work. If you're looking for a job that you want to pop in on and see where it goes, GS Construction can help you there. And of course, they can also help it become a career for you as well. GS Construction hiring now. Become a part of the great team today by visiting gsconstruction.ca or their page over on Indeed.ca. For the past 50 years, the foundation of GS Construction has been built on efficiency, quality, and safety. Take your career to the next level. Join the team at GS Construction today. All right, hire it or fire it, boys. The Vancouver Canucks are a better team after their series of trades. Hire it or fire it, Gager?
God, that's a tough one, because
there's more to it.
Yeah,
right?
Like, I was reading some stuff today. I'm going to say I'm going to hire it, because the whole Miller thing sounded just awful from the time he had to leave and come back. Now all this stuff is starting to leak through. You need a cohesive dressing room to be successful. Maybe they're not as talented, but it's a better place to go to work every day. So I'm going to hire it.
I'm gonna fire it. It is a better place to go to work, but they're a worse team from a talent standpoint. Like, you didn't.
Yeah,
you just are, and it's unfortunate because you had to do it. You were forced into doing it. Perfect world, it's just not a situation. But I think you're a worse team overall. Now, you might play better as a team. You might win more, but you have less talent, and that's how I'm going to interpret that question. So I'm going to fire it.
Hire it or fire it. Olives are gross.
Fire it. They're delicious.
Fire it. Olives are good.
Yeah.
Now, like, you get canned olives.
Maybe something's wrong with my tongue. Like, maybe maybe my bad palate is.
You just haven't developed your palate. You know what? You got to start, Dusty, like, for olives, is you got to actually get some good olives.
Well,
like,
we have good ones. Eric brought in some from Italian Center, like straight from, like, they were good olives today. They were stuffed. Reed said maybe I should have started with just a plain little regular olive.
Just a plain one. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I love black olives. I love all olives.
Is it just black and green?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah.
Well, you kind of got some brown.
You use olive oil, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Yeah. Lube it up a little bit. Only when I'm getting into the tanning bed, So what are you doing with the olives over there right now, Gidget?
I like, usually in a dirty martini.
Okay.
So you use the olive juice, right?
Okay.
And that's what you mix it with.
And is that why they put olives on them?
Yeah.
Two martinis, two olives. Or whatever you say.
So a dirty martini, that's with olive juice. So I put some whiskey with some of the olive brine into a little shot glass and put some olives in there. So they're just marinating. We'll see if there's a difference.
What did we put it in? What was the bottle that we had over there?
The liquor of the week last week. Who was the company. They're just down the road.
Distillery guys.
Distillery guys, yeah.
Hanson Distilleries.
Hanson Distilleries. So they're whiskey.
I did have a little bit of that whiskey last week.
So I threw that in there.
Olive whiskey, eh?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Might be.
Scott Thompson says, hire it. Olives are just too much. And then Grant over the nasty says, Dusty, I didn't like olives when I first tried one. The secret that my friend told me was to eat 6 or 7 in a sitting, and then you get used to the flavor and you can appreciate the brine.
What about nachos? Do you have olives on nachos? Black olives on nachos? No.
The only thing when I get nachos, and you might see this at the Super Bowl party, but I get nachos with cheese and chicken or cheese and meat.
Oh, that's it?
Nothing else.
No onions?
No onions, no tomatoes.
Jalapenos? No
jalapenos?
No, just plain old delicious nachos. you know what? It's funny because the very first time my wife and I, our very first date, we went to this pub in Fort McMurray called the Paterson. And it wasn't a great spot, but it was okay. It was Fort Mac. It was like a Fort Mac 7 first spot up there.
Yeah.
So we went and we're going to go to see the movie Leatherheads after, which was a bomb, awful movie. Just horrible. Clooney, just horrible movie. Anyway, we were like, let's just get nachos to share before we go to the movie. So we got nachos to share, but it's our first date. I wasn't going to be like, can we get plain nachos with just cheese and chicken? So we got nachos with everything on it because that's how she likes her nachos. Yeah. And I sort of just sat there and tried to nonchalantly sort of pick around everything, but keep the conversation going so she didn't know I was the pickiest eater of all time. But it survived. I mean, I faked it long enough, I guess. But we had nachos and I had to suck it up and tough through them on our very first date.
I wouldn't even have blamed her. Oil.
Yeah, I wouldn't even have blamed her if she... If I said, can I just get a separate order with just cheese and chicken? I wouldn't have blamed her. She never called me again.
What if Tam was like Jennifer Aniston in Along Came Polly and liked like really ethnic food and went to like a Moroccan place? You're sitting and
buddy, for like the first year before I put a ring on it, I went to like sushi places with her and I'd look at the menu and I'd be like, teriyaki chicken, please. So it was, I grinded it out pretty hard for a year. I even went down to skim milk for a year.
Wow.
Yeah. And I hate skim milk.
You didn't have to go home and use her loofah in the bathroom, did you?
Actually, you know what? I don't think I started using a loofah until I started dating her, but she didn't suggest it. I was just like, what is this clever little way to clean yourself? Yeah. So yeah, things change, I guess. Okay, here's another defenseman. Hire it or fire it. The others should look at acquiring Colton Parayko from the St. Louis Blues.
Oof, I would hire it. He's a little longer in the
He's 31. That whole blue line outside of Broberg is old.
Yeah.
In St. Louis.
I would. I got time for that. Hire it.
Yeah, I would hire it. Going to be tough to make the dollars work.
Yeah, but with the cap going up a bunch, I think that contract over the next few years becomes more eatable.
This year,
yeah.
Way more eatable.
This year,
way more eatable. Yeah,
and you get a little bit of cap winning experience on the back end.
You get a cup back there. You don't need him to be the guy.
No,
right? Come in, play with Nurse, only kill with Nurse.
Yeah. That's where it sits for me. Is like he's big body penalty killer, right? Like you can kill penalties. It's not like he's a crushing defenseman. No. Like he's not overly physical, but he's a big body, good reach, strong, covers a lot of area. And
he was on Two Guys and Goalie one time too.
Yes, he was.
We had him on from his place in St. Louis. He was a great kid back then.
Yeah.
He's an awesome. He still is. He's like a big puppy.
He's a good guy.
I'm always happy when I see him. He's
he crushes
really
the ball off the tee.
Oh, he's at our 1260 tournament before they canceled that.
Stupid.
Ridiculous. Yeah. You know that
he's winning long drive. If he's
the one at the Quarry, 9 on granite when you're coming back.
Oh,
there's water in front of the green. He just stepped up and drove the water and knocked it on the green like effortlessly. It was just like, oh my God.
Oh, that's great.
Guy's a freak. And I don't know. I know when Parayko's name comes out, some others fans, I think I haven't looked at the analytics. Like there's for some reason, I feel like there's a downside of him viewed by fans. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I got some time for him as the number 4. I mean, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at a number 4.
Yeah.
I think I got a little bit of time for him there for sure. So yeah, we'll see. Scott Thompson says, hire it. But how do we do it? his parents could drive him to the rink. All right. Hire it or fire it. The Fantastic Four are underrated in the whole Marvel movie world. They just dropped their new trailer this morning. I'm not very familiar with the Fantastic Four. I did sort of suck it up and watch all the other movies like 3 or 4 months ago. Didn't really like any of them, but they're going to try to make it a big thing here now. They got Pedro Pascal on board. What do you think, Adrian? Are the Fantastic Four underrated in the Marvel world? Can they help the MCU bounce back here if this movie hits?
Oh yeah, I'll hire it. Yes, if they can make it a huge bounce back, especially with the Mandalorian in it, because essentially the best part of the Fantastic Four up to this point in time is Chris Evans in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, remember when they showed up?
When
like,
he said "flame on,"
I
fell out of my chair. I thought that was just ridiculous because there's some really good storylines. I read a lot of Fantastic Four when I was a kid.
You did, hey?
Yeah, and because I like Doctor Doom, I thought he was badass. So, and I
Dr.
think
Doom
there's a portion. I think you hear Robert Downey's voice in it with, and you see the Doom mask. I don't know who's going to be the antagonist and things and that, but yeah, I got time for the Fantastic Four.
Cass,
I gotta fire it here, guys. I've been crushed. My hope has been crushed these
by
days.
all the other movies, like
by all the other, and I just, you know what? She did some great things, Kathleen Kennedy, but she's past her expiry date in terms of pumping out good stuff and getting good stuff done. I do not at this point have faith in her. There's been too much that has been subpar or subpar that they've released. So I want to be hopeful, guys, but right now my spirit is great. I feel like I'm in the decade of darkness for the Oilers with this right now. So, there's potential there, of course. First round draft pick should be, of course, because it's like, from the source material, as Gager said, awesome source material, but they've dropped the ball too many times here recently, and I just have no faith at this point. So
I know nothing about
wrong,
it, so I'm kind of going in blind, really.
Have you watched the other movies?
I watched the other ones, but the other ones, I might have just blanked it out, but they didn't. Was there an origin story? There was an origin story in one of them. Which one was that? One of them had, I guess the first one.
And I think the set, they tried to reboot it with Michael P. Jordan. He was the torch.
Yeah,
right?
I don't even know if I watched the rebooted one. And it looks like this one, according to the trailer, like they have some flashbacks to how it all began, but not full-blown origin story.
No, you don't need the origin story anymore. And I got to look it up, but the one, well, obviously the main villain against the Fantastic Four was always Doctor Doom, but there was another. There was like the evil Fantastic Four that went up against them.
What? Bizarro Fantastic Four?
Yeah, it was. I got to find out who these guys were. It was pretty cool. Like, I forget what it was, but they had different powers, right? But it looks like this movie is going to be all over the multiverse, right? Because John Krasinski looked like he was in it.
Which one was he in? He was
in Wanda.
He was in the Wanda. Not WandaVision. The Multiverse of Madness.
Multiverse of Madness. That's right. Yeah, he was in that one with
Reed
Professor
Richards.
X up there and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So
we'll see.
Well, who cares? Because February 14th, when the Captain America, the new one, comes out, I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. It feels like we haven't had a good movie.
I can't wait to go to a theater.
Yeah, no, that'll be nice. All right, that is going to do it for Two Guys and a Goalie. What's coming up on EST Afternoons here, Gager?
We're going to go Oilers game, some CFL signings, review Hartman, the viciousness of
highlights,
all that.
lowlights.
Yeah, Luke Harak from NHL.com. We're going to go to St. Louis, talk a little bit about the Blues. Heat and Smoke at 2:20. And then, of course, close out the show talking with Reed and Jay as they set up. What is it? 3 to 5.
They're 3 to 5 today.
And then the pregame show with Tommy and Hernan and
Heat
Belzy.
Smoke's a little bit different though.
Belzy's on today. Yeah.
Heat and Smoke's a little bit different though. I'll be asking trivia questions.
What?
To Hernan and Gage.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Did you get that Hanson Distillery thing from last week here? They brought it in for you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
You didn't?
No.
I took one. I gave it to Cass.
It's a nice looking hoodie.
Cass has one.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, well, there you go. I guess Cass got the big one.
Yeah, he did.
No, it's all good. I don't think I'd fit in the one you're wearing.
I think he's going to get fired.
Yeah, that's a nice looking hoodie, though.
I know, it's hot.
Yeah, that's good.
Back.
All right, so EST afternoons coming up here from 1 to 3 with Hernan and Gager. Stick around for that. That's going to do it for Two Guys and a Goalie today. Brought to you by GS Construction. If you're looking for a job, www.gsconstruction.ca. They will find one for you. For Gager, Cass, I'm Dusty. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock on The Nielsen Show.